to Hotel Transylvania!
With the upcoming release of the 4th installment of Hotel Transylvania, I got a little more curious on the storyline of this whole franchise. This channel is based around the evolution of stories and the retelling of the shift in each story. For example, in a previous video I changed a huge plot twist in the Avatar series, from Zuko joining Aang to deciding not to join him.
But I've come to an even more important decision. I'm going to join the Avatar, and I'm going to help him defeat you.
Hey guys, and welcome to Film Study, where we analyze films in various ways to make you see it in a different concept, and change a part of a scene and figure out how the rest of the story would play out based on a single change in one scene. Going through the films, I was curious to know how the story would play out if the roles were reversed, meaning if the hotel Dracula made was instead for the purpose of humans getting away from the monsters rather than monsters straying away from humans. The plot reveals that when monsters want to get away from it all, they go to Count Dracula's Hotel Transylvania, a lavish resort where they can be themselves without humans around to bother them. On one special weekend, Dracula invites creatures like the Invisible Man, the Mummy, and others to celebrate the 118th birthday of his daughter, Mavis. However, an unforeseen complication unfolds when an ordinary human unwittingly crashes the party and falls in love with Mavis. For any story, there must be a beginning, middle, and end. More specifically, a normal day, a conflict, and a climax. If we are going to rearrange the story, these three things need to still be included. For this to work, some things need to change for the start of the first scene. Dracula was introduced to us as a single dad in 1895. With his newborn daughter, he raises her in a secluded house of stone in the middle of the woods. Now this would still make sense if it was the opposite. If you were one of the few humans in the area and had nowhere to go, you would hide too. And of course, you would protect your child from the dangers of the outside world.
Don't ever ask to leave this tower again.
He spends his time building a hotel, of course, to let his species stay hidden, but also enjoy themselves. For the sake of this theory, let's pretend that the village Dracula whips up is real. First of all, how Mavis would get there is by walking, so she technically would have to hike down there. So what is the actual definition of a monster? According to the Webster Dictionary, a monster is identified with 5 different meanings. A legendary animal combining features of animal and human form, or having the forms of various animals in combination, any creature so ugly or monstrous as to frighten people, any animal or human deviating from the normal shape, a human who excites horror by wickedness, or any animal or thing huge in size. All of the monsters we see fall under these categories. What's also interesting is these fictional monsters that all these movies create are based on the illusion that real ones like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster are extended and reimagined from a standard monster that history has introduced to us. They are seen and known as ugly and harmful creatures. Since the Middle Ages, anyone opening one of the then popular bestiaries could find within the covers a mixture of reality and fiction. Sharing the pages with real animals were fantastical creatures that have never existed, but were passed along from one volume to the next because someone once said they had seen them. And yet, many of the monsters were not 100% fantasy, but rather these cryptids, supposed animals, clearly non-existent, were born when human reasoning combined a rudimentary knowledge of nature with a strong dose of imagination. Monster movies originated with adaptations of horror, folklore, and literature. Typically, movie monsters differ from more traditional antagonists in that many exist due to circumstances beyond their control. Their actions are not entirely based on choice. The key word here is choice. Because of the interpretation of what makes a monster, they do have a choice to get to know each other, but choose to keep apart. The most common aspect of a monster movie is the struggle between human collective of protagonists against one or more monsters. For some movies though, like this one and Monsters Inc., the monsters aren't against each other. It is a world of the same species who live in peace. Because of the movie's plot and the history of movies, they have to create some sort of conflict, that being the humans are the ones to be afraid of, instead of the monsters themselves. Because of the incident where humans harmed the mother, Dracula was severely strict as to letting Mavis go anywhere other than the hotel.
She was killed by your kind.
Of course, with every movie, all she wanted to do was get out and see more of the world she knew was out there. Even if the roles were reversed, Drac still would have created the same plan to lure his daughter away. From the perspective of Jonathan and Drac, you can imagine if it was switched. Humans are technically harmless as they don't have any real advantages to them like a vampire would, or the other various monsters' abilities like invisibility or just rearranging body parts. Given what had happened to Mavis's mother, this gave Dracula a reason to fear and despise them. However, it never clearly stated why the others don't like humans exactly. The point of his creation of the hotel was for the monsters to stay safe, but in reality, if you think about it, it is the monsters that are to be feared, as their abilities and appearance make them more frightening than humans. Mavis slowly begins to learn that humans aren't as bad as her father has taught her when Jonathan slips and mentions that he's been involved with humans. As we can see, neither side is dangerous. There is no real threat to either. The middle of the film comes around and Jonathan and Drax seem to be having fun, forgetting all about their differences or the fact that Drax wants him out of the picture completely. Because we learn that both of their kind is unharmful, it doesn't mean that they couldn't be. This is the perspective that Drax learns when his wife is killed by them. During Mavis's birthday party, she tried to convince her dad that she wants to give the village another chance, still unknowing that the village did not exist in the first place. Jonathan is revealed as human, to which the monsters react. To their surprise, the real human village they find wants to help them with getting Jonathan back from Mavis. Surprisingly though, there is no real conflict in this story. It sounded like it in the beginning because the monsters were talking about how bad humans were, including the incident with Mavis's mother, but end up not being an obstacle for Drax. Even in the second film, when the two have a child together, Mavis is worried about her son becoming the same as her, even though Drax is hoping he develop vampire powers. It's clear that the human and monster world was always meant to be separated, not only for the sake of safety for one, but the differences each of them see in each other. The conflict here is how both parents see how their child would later develop, powers or no powers. Both of them are ashamed of their own kind. In the end, how the story would end if the roles were flipped, with the hotel being for humans, I think the story would end up with a bit of darkness to it, with Dracula and the rest being human and a monster stepped into their territory. It would have been a completely different story, caging the monster even though humans wouldn't have as much advantage as monsters with how big or strong they are. They would have the technology to catch them if they were to ever step foot, almost preventing them. And also, would it really be realistic that a monster could find the hotel? Viewing it as a hotel for monsters in this scenario, yes. Jonathan found the hotel as a human, so it would be likely. For the fourth installment of this franchise, the plot reads, Van Helsing's mysterious new invention transforms Drac and his pals into humans and Johnny into a monster. With their new mismatched bodies, Drac and the pack must find a way to switch themselves back before their transformations become permanent. Which for this one, my theory would technically come to life, seeing at least one of the monsters in human form, so it'll be interesting to see how he reacts and what the differences would be.
For centuries, no human has had the power to become a monster. Until now.
But is this safe though?
And for more videos like this, we'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. It would really help out the channel and let us know that we are providing great content for you guys. So what do you guys think of this theory? I personally think this franchise has taught choice of fear and being sheltered. The story ended with Mavis and Jonathan ending up together, but the true lesson was for Dracula in letting his daughter explore the world and on her terms, regardless of some of the dangers that may or not be out there. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below.